Alright, so this is gonna be episode 7 of Team Profiles for Set G. This episode's gonna be about Goodra. Alright. So Goodra is a pseudo-legendary Pokemon that came out in Generation 6 as a pseudo-legendary for the game. Um and Goodra has seen little to no play in a very in an earnest format throughout VGC from Gen 6 and on, right? Um yeah, generally Goodra has not been the subject of any concepts or teams, and yeah, modern day Pokemon hasn't really done anything to uh alleviate that in terms of giving it, power creep, or a, you know, giving it some sort of identity as opposed to its original identity. And so, yeah, Goodra has been largely forgotten as a result. Um, so, yeah, I wanted to do this team profile for it, not only because it's been forgotten, but also to just kind of highlight its role in the format and kind of give an explanation as to kind of what Pokemon was going for with Goodra, right? So yeah, so Goodra is, again, right, pseudo legendary. It's mono dragon. It's just a dragon type Pokemon, right? And it carries the same kind of theme of pseudo legendaries generally being mid range Pokemon, right? Goodra generally falls in the category of mid range support. All right, so um, yeah, Goodra has a variety of abilities that it uses to basically set up what is basically what I would classify as like a 1-2 punch, right? So it has an ability like hydration, right? Which in the rain you can take off statuses on the Pokemon that has hydration, right? It has Sap Sipper, which when hit by a grass move, it's immune to the grass move and it gains one attack stage. And then it has the ability Gooey, right? Which when hit by a contact move reduces the opponent's speed by the attacker speed rather by one stage, right? So these are all like kind of like almost like cause and effect moves and abilities rather, right? And so yeah, Pokemon was trying to go for sort of like a 1-2 punch design for it, in that you do one thing and then it sets up for another thing. Basically, that's basically what they're trying to do with Goodra, right? And so if it seems like Goodra's sort of underwhelming, it's not because Pokemon kind of missed the mark with Goodra. It's just that Goodra is not gonna be a Pokemon like Gen 6. They also came out with like Xerneas and like Yveltal, right? Where it's like they just press Oblivion Wing or Geomancy and the game's just over, right? They're trying to do something else with Goodra in the sense that they wanted to do it where it can do multiple things, right? And it's not just some one trick pony, right? So that's basically kind of what Goodra was trying to go for, right? So yeah, um, all that aside, um, this Goodra team is sort of just a sample team for Goodra. Uh, Feel free to kind of configure, the pivot slots and some of the core slots as well. But I feel like this is a pretty strong team for Set G, just given how you'd want to set up a board Set G basically, right? So yeah, so this Goodra is leftovers Goodra, right? And so it's a water terror with leftovers, and it has Draco Meteor, Scald, Acid Spray, and Life Dew, right? So it's HP special attack, modest nature, and it has Gooey, right? So um like I said, right, Goodra um is a mid range support style Pokemon, right? And so you're not going to want to do something like lead with this Pokemon, right? You're generally going to want to use this Pokemon as a backup for your leads, so that you can set up good board states for them, basically, right? So yeah, if you watched watch any of my previous videos for this format, um, I talk a lot about how uh mid-range Pokemon need to be set up by other Pokemon, right? But in this case, it's the opposite. The mid-range Pokemon is actually setting up for the other Pokemon, right? So that's kind of how you want to play this Goodra, right? So it has like acid spray, and it may seem that you'd want to like lead with like an acid spray combo, but the kind of idea is that you're gonna switch into the Goodra so that you can have a good board state for it, so it can use acid spray very freely, right? So that's kind of the idea, right? So yeah, and then Draco Meteor, as opposed to a move like Dragon Pulse, right, is because Goodra isn't a Pokemon with very devastating special attack, and so to compensate for that, you just need a um, very high base power stat move, right? You could use Dragon Pulse, right? If you wanted to make this more defensive, but since this is a more bulky special attacker, right, as opposed to a more tanky special attacker, yeah, Draco Meteor is just probably the better option, right? So yeah, then there's also just a combo of like being able to go like Draco Meteor, Acid Spray, Draco Meteor, right, which effectively gives you two neutral Draco Meteors, right? So again, right, to play more into Goodra's design, right, you give it Draco Meteor and Acid Spray so that they can combo well with each other, basically, right? So yeah, so the next Pokemon in the core is Greninja. This is a Water Terror Greninja choice specs. Special attack speed, timid nature, and it has protein as its ability, and it has Dark Pulse, Water Shuriken, Ice Beam, and Water Pledge, right? So Water Pledge, you kind of see where I'm trying to go with this team, and so yeah, right. So this um Greninja is going to be paired with the Goodra in the sense that Greninja again, right? It's like a sort of like a Greninja is like a carry. It's like a Greninja definitely falls under the category of meta Pokemon, right? But I would definitely put it more in the category of like carry support, just based on kind of what it can accomplish, right? Greninja would be like the type of Pokemon that you put on your team for like generally a team where you're trying to uh spread yourself thin, basically, right? And so to compensate for that, you would have like Greninja in your core, um, to cover all the things that are missing, basically, right? Because you have protein, right? Um, you have stab moves. Every single attack you use is stab, and so you get the ability to hit a lot of numbers that you wouldn't be able to necessarily hit otherwise, right? And so as a result, you can spread yourself thin very much, right? Um, so yeah, to compensate for Greninja's, not so devastating, stat line, only has like 123 speed or something like that, and like 109 special attack, something like that. You give it a specs, and then you combo it with something like a Goodra, right? So yeah. So next slot is Charizard, right? So this is a Focus Sash Fire Terror Charizard. It has Air Slash, Fire Pledge, Heat Wave, Sunny Day, Special Attack Speed, Timid Nature, right? So it has Solar Power. So basically it's going to be able to, basically set itself up, right? So, Charizard, right, needs no introduction, of course, but in VGC, it has really not been given the justice it deserves, right? As opposed to a game like, TCG, right, where it's basically the star of the show anytime it gets printed, right? Well, at least in modern day Pokemon, it's like Reshiram Charizard, GX, Charizard VMAX, Charizard V Star, which didn't see a lot of play, and most recently Charizard EX, right? So yeah, as opposed to TCG, right, which is a very more structured game, and less wiggle room, right, and less variance, right. Um, Charizard hasn't really been the subject of a lot of variance in VGC, right, and so it's kind of very hard to sort of define it, right, as a result, right. But Charizard still stays true to its design, despite its lack of usage, right? And it's supposed to be sort of like a almost like a mid-range carry, almost, right? It has very good stats, right? Um, but you have to consider that when it was printed, or sorry, when it was released in Generation One, right? They didn't want it to outshadow like Moltres, which also was like the Firefly type for that generation, and also like Mewtwo and stuff like that, right? And so they made it mid range, but more of like a mid range carry. And so as a result, it seems like it's it seems like it needs a lot more support than it actually does, right? And it's not the case, right? It just needs more variance, basically. So with more variance, it's going to unfold better, basically. And you'll be able to see that Charizard fits into a role besides just sunny day, tailwind, solar power, heat wave, cheese. You know what I mean? So yeah, it has solar power. I mean, it has a focus sash because paired with the Greninja, it basically gives it the guaranteed water pledge, fire pledge combo, right? So that if you get hit by like a spread move like Astral Barrage, for example, um, you'll be able to get off the fire pledge, right, to set up your board, right? So yeah, that's Charizard, right? And then the restricted slot is going to be Eternatus. So this is Fire Terra Power Herb Eternatus, special attack speed, timid nature, and it has Sludge Bomb, uh, Meteor Beam, Flamethrower, and Dynamax Cannon, right? So yeah, Eternatus is just like your average sweeper, um, and so yeah, special attack speed, and just give it a nice array of moves, right? All right, so for the pivot slots, got Fluttermane, Fairy Terra, Boost Energy, special attack speed, timid nature, and it has Dazzling Gleam, Shadow Ball, Icy Wind, Protect, right? So this is speed control for Charizard and Greninja, who are definitely going to be outsped by the likes of Pokemon like Miraidon and Calyrex Shadow Rider. And so to compensate for that, you just carry the Fluttermane slot so they can't just lead with those Pokemon and just run you over, right? And then you got Tropius, right? So this is Fire Terra Life Orb Tropius, uh, and has HP, uh, 252 HP, 132 special attack, 124 defense, and it has Air Slash, Wide Guard, Energy Ball, and Terra Blast, right? So again, right, generally, Tropius is like your premier, um, sort of like jack of all trades, almost, can fill a lot of roles, right? And on this team, it's just fulfilling the role of coverage, basically. So yeah, uh, it walls Urshifu, Rapid Strike, right? Um, and in the sun, right, with a life orb, it's going to be able to pick off a lot of slots, right? Hit a lot of numbers that would be very surprising for your opponent. And so, yeah, right. You don't want to go max special attack because Tropius generally isn't going to be, hitting huge numbers that you need to hit. You're just going to probably want to do, 40 to 60%, right? And so, with solar power and life orb, you'll be able to do that. So, yeah. So, yeah, this is Goodra. Um, Again, feel free to configure the team as you like. This team has a lot of wiggle room. And thank you for listening. And I hope to see you in the next video.